Welcome to the first edition of the Beer Show, the programme that celebrates good beer and great food.
It looks fairly broad, but it is fairly...
In this first edition, we go behind the scenes to find out more about one of Britain's most familiar brews, cook up a variation of one of our favourite curry dishes for hungry brewers, and visit a beautiful part of Britain and do some beer matching in a classic Lakeland pub.
Along this road I've walked a million times, in a small town that I'd lived for all my life. I could tell you what's been going on, what's been happening now, all the buildings, all the structures and how they've changed.
But first I'm in Tadcaster, the Burton-on-Trent of Yorkshire, where they've been brewing beer for over 600 years.
I know the landlords in the bars, and all the rich boys and the rich cars.
We're all getting to know now about the growth of microbrewery culture, about the development of artisan ales. It's great stuff. But what about the big name generic lagers? Isn't there the same amount of love and passion and attention to detail that goes into the making of those? Do you know what? I think there is, but just to be sure, we're going to meet a man now who really does know. There are up to 10 stages in the brewing process to achieve a pint of some of our best loved lagers. I've come to the Tower Brewery in Tadcaster to meet Lee Threppleton, technical brewer at Molson Coors. Lee, fabulous to meet you.
Good to meet you too, Richard.
What's your role here?
I'm quality manager.
Okay.
I'm technical brewer as well, but mainly quality manager.
So you get to basically drink for a living?
I do get to drink for a living.
Responsibly, of course.
Responsibly, and getting paid for it, which is
Brilliant.
no bad thing.
Okay, well, this is where it all starts, with these ingredients.
That's right, yeah.
So do you want to talk me through the process very quickly?
We'll take you through the process. The biggest ingredient is the water, or the brewing liquor, from two of our boreholes. All water on site comes from boreholes. The next biggest ingredient, and probably the most important, is the lager malt.
Can I have a little taste?
Have a taste, yeah. So this is all British barley.
Yeah.
British barley malted down at our maltings down in Burton-on-Trent. You get that crumble, you get that malt characteristic coming through.
I want that on my breakfast cereal every morning.
Marvellous, isn't it? We can't process with that. We need to do something with it to start the process. We need to mill it, so we need to get in there with a 4-roll mill and effectively give it a bit of a squeeze. Well, you get the water in there to allow the conversion of starches into sugar. That's the key part in the mashing process.
And what we've got, well, I know what we've got there, but tell me.
We've got hops there, or hop pellets in this case. We've taken our cone hop, we've pelletised them, and if you break those apart, you should get that wonderful aromatic.
I love the smell of those. I mean, that is
oil.
Pure essential oil, isn't it?
Touch of marmalade in there as well. The whole lot comes through on the
on the counter. Beautiful. And that is not a pint of milk.
That is not a pint of milk. That's Carling yeast. So each of our brews has a different yeast. Each of our brands has a different yeast. This is Carling yeast. Crucial for the flavour development through the fermentation process. We also use a small amount of brewing sugar as well. Stick your finger in there, you'll get messy. But
I mean that's actually good tasting sugar. Yeah, love it. Well, I've seen this. Should we go and see how the process actually takes place in the brewery?
Let's go and have a look. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, Lee, so this is the first stage of the process, yeah?
Yeah, this is the mashing step. This is where we start that conversion of those starches into sugar. What we've got in here is a Carling mash, which is just starting its mashing step. Takes about an hour.
Okay.
Do you want to look? Do you want to taste?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look in. Now, this will be pretty hot, won't it?
This is going to be around about 65 degrees.
Okay.
If you're quick and careful, you can probably get a sample.
Go on then.
The froth off the top.
Roll up the old sleeves. Here we go. Oh, look at that. It's like porridge. And that is sweet. Really sweet. And that is all natural sugar, isn't it?
It's all natural sugar. The enzymes that are in the barley are now starting to work on the starch and turning that into the sugar. The stuff that we really need to carry out the fermentation process to give us the alcohol at the end of the fermentation.
I reckon that's pretty good for you, just as it is.
I think it probably is.
Yeah. That could be one of your 5 a day, couldn't it?
It certainly could.
Brilliant. Well, should we go and see the next stage of the process?
Yeah, let's walk on. Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually the bottom of the vessel that we've just been looking at.
Yeah. We're actually standing underneath the mash mixer now.
Okay. So what happens in here?
Well, what we need to do is separate that sweet wort, all that sugar that we need, from all that grain, the spent grain now that will eventually go on to feed cows. We need to separate that sweet wort, and we do that in a lauter tun. So this is like a giant filter. So we drop the mash down here, we drop it into this vessel here, which is very wide, as you can see, quite shallow. It goes down below this floor. It's about 1 metre deep is the mash at this point underneath.
Okay.
And the lauter itself has slots, like a sieve, underneath. What we do is we draw that sweet wort from underneath the plates, those slots, and then the next step down is the wort boiling, which takes place downstairs.
This is an impressive piece of kit, Lee. Looks like something off a early James Bond film.
Yeah, this is
the spaceship has landed.
It does. We just need the roof to open, don't we?
Absolutely, that's wicked.
This is the wort boiler, or the copper. It used to be made of copper. This is stainless steel. And this is where we boil that sweet wort that we took from the lauter process. And this is also where we add the hops. So at this point, we boil for an hour, we add the hops, we start getting that bittering material coming through. We start developing some cooked, caramelising flavours at the same time. And also crucial at this stage, the boil starts to precipitate out, drop out unwanted proteins, the plant proteins. They separate out from that sweet wort, and then we've got something we can actually use to ferment with.
You really need to know your chemistry for brewing, don't you? I mean, look at these little solid bits of protein in suspension here. Amazing. Can I have a little taste of this?
Yes, stick your finger in. It's hot, so just be careful.
Right, let's give it a go. See, that now is starting to approach that familiar lager flavour.
Yeah.
That I know you've got the sweetness there, but you've now got that balancing bitterness from the hops.
Yeah, that's it. That's the first time you can taste bitterness in the process.
Yeah, it's still quite sweet because we haven't fermented the sugars out
Sugar's
yet, have
still
we?
there. All the sugars are still in there.
Absolutely.
So we've now got the finished wort. The next important step is to turn that sweet stuff into alcohol. So it has to go through a fermentation step. First bit is cooling. It's cooled down to a temperature that the yeast is happy with, quite crucial. We add just the right amount of yeast. Brewer's rule of thumb, a handful or a fist of yeast per barrel of sweet wort normally hits around about the right cell count for fermentation. That ferments for a week, and after that process you've developed the fermentation flavours, you've developed the alcohol and the CO2. From there it goes to a chilling stage where it's chilled to -1 centigrade and it's held there for a number of days. That increases this stability on protein, and then it's ready for filtration. And what we can do now is we can go to that last step now, we can look at that final filtration process, and you can see how this finishes up at the back end of the process.
It's a great idea, Lee. I'm getting more and more thirsty as we go through this process. Come on.
Let's go.
I'll tell you what, Lee, if you've got a fetish for stainless steel tubing, this is your place. It's fantastic. So we're getting into the final stages of the brew. After fermentation and maturation, we arrive at the polishing filter.
This is what gives you the brightness and the clarity. It gives you the final appearance of the beer. And it's also one of the best places to have a taste.
Well, I think it would be rude not to.
Let's have it go.
Absolutely.
Tap.
Oh, mate.
There you go, Richard.
This is a real privilege. I mean, this is as perfect as the beer should ever be, I guess. And that's got some good aroma on it as well. That is pristine.
So that's cheating a bit, really. What we ought to do is take it to where it's served properly.
Sounds brilliant. But before you do that, here's some little known beer facts.
Someone who collects beer mats is called a tegestologist.
Did you know that the oldest recipe in the world is for beer?
A labyrintholist is someone who collects beer bottles.
There's no question that natural ingredients and passion has gone into the making of that. And I think when you know that, when you know what's gone into it, you've met the people that have been responsible for it and you've seen it happen, it doesn't half make it taste better. Brilliant. Well, what I want to do now is go and say a bit of a thank you to the lads and lasses who've made this brew. So I'm going to cook them up something special. It's fantastic. Looking forward to that. Brilliant. Right, let me tell you why lager is fantastic with curry. All right, first of all, water is not as refreshing as lager because what we've got in this pint is this wonderful effervescence. It's fantastic, and it lifts the spiciness off the tongue, it refreshes the palate, and it makes the second mouthful, the third mouthful, the fourth mouthful taste as delicious and as refreshing as the first one. We're going to make a biryani. It's the perfect dish to go with lager. Okay, we've been cooking the onions for a few minutes. They've gone lovely and golden and soft and melting. Right, onions are ready, in with the spices. So we've got a lovely blend there of turmeric, cumin powder, curry powder, but you can put any combination you want in. You've got to cook your spices off for at least a couple of minutes because otherwise they will tend to be a bit bitter. So give it a good old stir. There we go. Then, in with our chopped green beans. These are actually uncooked, and that's why we're putting them in now. They'll just cook in the water with the rice. In with the rice. Basically, just remember, 1 part rice, 2 parts water. Simple as that. In with the water. Give it a stir, just to get everything melding together. And then straight on with the lid. We're going to bring that to a simmer. We're going to simmer it for about 7 minutes with the lid on, and then I'm going to turn the heat off and we're going to let it stand for about 7 minutes with the lid on, and that gives a lovely fluffy rice. While the rice is cooking, I'm going to make the flatbread, and this is a lot easier than you might think. All you need essentially is plain flour, bit of salt and water. And that is our base flatbread mix. However, being in Rome and all that, why use water when you've got great beer? So any kind of lager or ale in this is absolutely beautiful. So I'll show you how to judge the consistency. In with your liquid. Give it a mix round. Just start amalgamating all that together. And we want to get a nice semi-sticky dough. So I've got a bit of leftover sausage and bacon here. So we're just going to put some of that in. You've all had meat naan from the Indian takeaway, haven't you? Exactly the same principle. We always use the juice. How about a bit of zest in there as well? We are having a curry dish. I reckon a bit of ground cumin in there. That'll be nice. Our pièce de résistance, roasted garlic. In the oven, 180 degrees, hour and a half, soft and squidgy. And just start basically forming that lovely, tasty bread dough. That is perfect. Ready for rolling. And then just a quick roll like that, and in a matter of seconds, you've got that perfect oval flatbread shape that we're all so familiar with. That's been simmering for about 7 minutes now. It's time to add in our other ingredients. Chopped chicken, chopped sausage, chopped bacon. Get it all in there. And don't forget the peas. There they go. Give it a good old stir up, amalgamate all those ingredients. Look at that. Right, there's enough heat in there to warm through all those ingredients we've just put in there. And while that's happening, I'm going to cook the flatbread. All we need to do now, pan on the heat, oil in the pan, get it nice and hot, and then in with the flatbread. Oh, look at that one. Whew. Monster. Tuck it in round the edges. This is going to be nice and rustic. Beautiful. And we're just going to let that get nice and golden brown, flip it over, a couple of minutes on each side.
Show me something different that I could do. Don't take away what I know, all the places that I go.
Right, this is what this sort of food's all about. If you want a bit of bread, just tear it off. There you go. It might be quite hot. Spicy hot and hot hot. What do you think about the food and beer combination?
So yeah, it really brings out the flavours and lifts the taste.
I mean, the great thing is as well with lager is that it's brilliant with any sort of fatty food, any spicy food. It just cuts through, cleanses the palate. You know, it's a great beer to have with food. So well done, guys. Top brew. As they're finishing that off there, I'm going to head off to the Lake District to this great little pub for a bit more food and beer matching. See you there.